What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
Hey there, bankers.
And Robert DeFelice.
Coming to you live from Smark Moment headquarters.
Yeah, we're going to all get thrown off of, Smark Towers, or what the hell would we call it? The Tony panel? That's what it is.
That's the Tony Towers.
There you go, Tony Towers. I'm going to make one of those giant T type of things like the Teen Titans or something. Hey, what's everybody doing today? You guys doing good?
I think so. What about you, Cal?
Every day's the same as every other day right now. So
You mean you're not enjoying March 58th?
I thought it was March 58th when we did the hot tags.
Same thing.
See?
See, every day's the same. Well, how is everybody out there in audience land? Drop a comment below. Tell us what's up. Tell us anything that you want to chime in on about whether it's, outside factors, or if it's the podcast, or if it's Money in the Bank or WWE, or, I don't know, recipes, or what stuff should we binge watch on Netflix? I don't know, whatever it is. Just drop a comment below. And if you're on the platforms that don't have the comments available for you to actually post something, like, Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or anything like that, then leave a rating or a share or follow or a heart or whatever they have on those kind of things, and hop on over to YouTube. YouTube does have comments. It's actually one of the best features about the whole platform. So if you're there, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Ring that little notification bell, hit that like button on the video as well, and as I said, drop a comment. Tell us your predictions, your picks, your breakdown, your preview, whatever you want to constitute this as. Because that's what we're doing here. We are going to be previewing WWE Money in the Bank 2020. We have a couple matches that they've announced already, and I'm assuming that they're going to do that last-minute rush type of thing on SmackDown this Friday, where they'll probably be like, oh, crap, we actually don't have a whole lot of other matches, so this one and this one and this one, and that kind of thing. I don't know why they've been doing that the past couple of years, but they have been very much into that whole wait until the last minute and then make Tony have to do a bunch of extra work on Friday nights. But we do know that we're going to get the ladder matches that are, kind of the whole focal point of this whole thing, although it's one match. We're going to really dive deep into that whole thing. We've got the Universal and the WWE titles on the line, the SmackDown tag team titles and women's title on the line, and then TBA, TBD, question marks, whatever for everything else on the card. So let's start off with that and just try to figure out what else they might put on this card. I'm kind of assuming that Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus happens, because they've been doing a lot with this whole idea that Sheamus is upset about the Jeff Hardy vignettes, and Jeff Hardy is supposed to make an appearance on SmackDown. So I'm kind of imagining Jeff Hardy shows up. He probably repeats for the umpteenth time, this is my last chance to get it right, since that's what he said for like half of the Corey Graves After the Bell podcast. And then Sheamus probably tries to bro kick him, or successfully bro kicks him, and we probably get some kind of a match between those two. If that's the case, I don't know really who would really win, but makes sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I think Jeff would have to win anything he's doing right now.
Yeah, that match can happen.
I could see a case for Sheamus winning, but I got a feeling that if they do that match, it makes a little bit more sense that Hardy would win. And then Sheamus is kind of like, I don't know with Sheamus. I can picture Sheamus being somebody who can challenge and potentially even beat Braun Strowman for the title, but I still keep thinking that they're going to head him into that Intercontinental title situation. And it wouldn't shock me if, like, whenever Sami Zayn comes back into the mix, which we don't know when that's going to be, if he drops that title to Daniel Bryan, and then Bryan and Sheamus have that match at SummerSlam, for instance. So the Hardy thing, I don't know. I think more than likely, he said that he's very much into the idea of wrestling a bunch of people that he can do like weird imaginative things with. And he specifically mentioned Bray Wyatt. I think it makes a little bit more sense for me if Jeff Hardy were to beat Sheamus in this feud overall, and then go on to feud with Bray Wyatt. And Sheamus could do one way or the other, but seems like we're getting this feud at least for the time being.
Yeah. I think maybe they want it to be a quick blowover where Hardy just beats Sheamus and we move on. But who really knows? I think Extreme Rules is next.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's always a good Jeff Hardy special. So you never know.
I mean, they could technically wait until Extreme Rules for this, but it seems a little bit weird to just like put Hardy into the mix right before Money in the Bank when you do need other matches on the card, because the way that they've advertised this so far and the way that I'm understanding it, I might be wrong, but it seems like they did the Money in the Bank ladder matches already. It's one match, but it's two matches, that whole confusion. But that's already been recorded, and everything else is going to happen live. And if we get anything close to the normal time frame of what these pay-per-views typically are, they're going to need at least 3, if not 4 or 5 more matches. Because that one ladder match can't be 2 hours long.
Why not?
I can't imagine it being a 2-hour long match. You know what I mean? Like, if
We
they would have
make
had like one 45-minute long match and another 45-minute long match, that I could understand. But they're doing it both at the same time.
we make movies, pal.
Well, the average runtime of a movie is an hour and a half, I think. So, actually, what is the average movie time now?
Probably about 90 minutes.
Average movie length. Let's look that up.
It's probably a lot longer now.
Actually, apparently, according to Quora, I don't know how to pronounce that right. Between 90 and 120 minutes. So
Yeah.
they're still around that.
That's a bit of a vague answer. It's like, oh, what's the average runtime of a movie? Oh, it's somewhere between this and
Yeah.
between 40 minutes and a day. It's like that's how long movies typically go.
Oh, I guess if you average 120 and 90, there you go. You get your answer. But yeah, Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, it makes more sense for me for them to put that match, have it be a standard match. The feud continues, and then you get a gimmick match at Extreme Rules, and maybe Sheamus wins the first one and Jeff Hardy wins the second one, or something like that, or vice versa, or they just say the hell with Sheamus and give Jeff Hardy 2 wins or something. I don't know. I can't really imagine a whole lot of other matches that they could add to this card, though. They did Street Profits versus Viking Raiders on Raw.
Who won
Yeah,
that?
that's the most obvious one. Because Viking Raiders beat Street Profits.
Okay, so they're adding that one.
Yeah, so I imagine that'll be a Raw Tag Team title match.
It seems like that's the case. So then you got to imagine the people that are working in WWE right now. It's like, come on, guys. You really, like, if Raw has a low rating because people aren't interested to see these type of matches that have been putting on recently, pretty sure that they're not going to want to see the rematch a couple days later on Money in the Bank. Like, I don't think that, as great as Viking Raiders are and as great as Street Profits are, I don't think the selling point is, well, if you didn't tune in to watch the non-title match, you'll watch the rematch in a couple days, you know?
Well, it doesn't matter anyway. It's like you're still living in the impression that TV shows are there to sell pay-per-views. The fact of the matter is the pay-per-views are just watched by the same people over and over and over again.
Right.
It's still just so stupid, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a clear sign that like not many people are too interested in that match. But then again, it's a tag team championship match that just would be added to this card anyway. And like, it's never been the case that a tag team title match has been a draw for a show in the last umpteen years or whatever. But they'll probably throw that on there. I can imagine that potentially they could do a kickoff match, the much anticipated rubber match between Cedric Alexander and Ricochet versus Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne.
Well, the way that they added stuff at WrestleMania, that's the only real way that we can judge how they would go about doing this. And when they just decided, like, I don't know, Natty versus Liv Morgan, we could get this, like, the craziest things on this card. They could just decide on Sunday, hey, it's Akira Tozawa against Titus O'Neil, and just be like, you gonna watch it? And everybody will be like, no. You know, I like Akira Tozawa, but like, you know.
What do you mean? It's the implosion of Titus Worldwide, remember?
Oh, that's right. They were a part of that whole thing. Wow, that's massively forgettable.
They're building up Bobby Lashley clearly at the moment. I imagine that's for a future feud with Drew McIntyre.
Maybe Aleister Black or something, if they want to revisit that.
Well, Dallas Black's already in the match, so he wouldn't be on this card.
That's
But
right, yeah.
yeah, so I imagine that they'll go with like Bobby Lashley against some random jobber. I mean, they could do
Now-
another one with. Well, no, I mean he beat up Carrillo, didn't he, in the Gauntlet match? So maybe we'd get Bobby Lashley versus Humberto Carrillo.
Wow, that's gonna make me.
Well, at this point, let's stop bearing the lead here. This is a one segment show for the most part. We're all just here to see what happens in the ladder matches, which is just one big match now.
I want to see what happens in the former matches.
Damn it, Tony.
If you hate me as much as I do, donate to the Patreon. Yeah, I mean, this really is a weak card in some ways. But at the same time, I'm interested in most of the matches. It's weird. Like, one of the other matches that we've got on this is a Fatal 4-Way for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, and it's the New Day against John Morrison and The Miz, the Lucha House Party, and the Forgotten Sons. And it's conspicuous by their absence, the Usos, but Jimmy Uso is apparently injured, so that's why they're not wrestling. But, like, as odd as it is to say, I'm not the biggest Lucha House Party fan. I think that, like, Kalisto and Lince Dorado in particular have some stuff to offer, and Grand Metalik, he can be fun to watch sometimes too, but as a tag team, they don't really matter all that much. And the Forgotten Sons, I've never really liked them at all. But oddly enough, I'm kind of interested in this match. Like, I want to know if maybe this is their idea to, like, even put the titles on the Forgotten Sons and kind of get something weird going on or something. Like, this could be fun. I like it.
Judging by the track record of names like Bliss and Mella, I think the Forgotten Sons are going to be huge on SmackDown because they weren't huge on NXT. So I think they win it, and they win it quick. Forgotten Sons get the tag titles.
I don't think they'll be so hasty to take the titles off the New Day again. I mean, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because I feel like the Forgotten Sons will be the people that win the title eventually. But I can imagine a scenario in this match where the Forgotten Sons have the victory. They're pulled off at the last minute from the pin that they've got. New Day gets the win by pinning one of either Miz or Morrison, and then the next feud is a one-on-one match between the New Day and the Forgotten Sons. So, and that's where you'll eventually see the title change. It does kind of with the Forgotten Sons. I've never been a huge fan of them as well, so they don't really stand out to me that much. I'm a fan of Jackson Riker. I think that he fits the mold of someone. Okay, this is a guy that you could push and build a character around. The other two are a bit forgettable, funnily enough. And yeah, but I don't understand the logic of them being presented as the war veterans because they're going a lot heavier on the war veterans side of things now, and yet they're the heels. It's a really odd.
They did it with Lacey last year.
Yeah, I know. It just seems odd, like the all American super marine super veterans, that sort of thing, and they're the ones that are the bad guys. Maybe it's a Brave New World where the Americans are actually assholes, and it's the other people that are good.
I kind of want to see them transition into all sorts of different ranges like that. Like, they could get into the whole like end the lockdown type of thing. You know?
Yeah, that could be pretty good.
Never say never.
They get them in like an army jeep or whatever, and they're just driving around places just with like signs saying like
don't tread on
me.
me.
No masks on, like take masks off, that sort of thing. It's like, yeah, I can imagine them going. They should be like heavy Trump supporters, that type of thing. They could really appeal to that crowd.
By that logic, they win the belts here, and the next feud is with the Lucha House Party.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that, and then they're officially like this is a huge build up to next year's WrestleMania where they're officially led to the ring by Donald Trump in his inauguration as president again.
If they win the tag titles, do they become the Memorable Sons? Because they're officially in the record books and they matter now.
No, they're forever forgotten.
Yeah.
That'd be quite funny if they were just put in the record books, and then when they drop the belt, you'd look back over the list of former tag team champions, and it just says, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess someone was tag team champion here, but I had no idea who.
It just says who, and then the link to that goes to Jim Hart and Neidhart.
Yeah, Jim Neidhart was champion again.
Good.
That'd be great. I'm leaning more towards the New Day retaining by just like a hair. I do think that there's a chance that even Miz and Morrison win the titles back. And I do think that there's a very good chance, actually, that the Forgotten Sons win the belts. But at the very least, Lucha House Party ain't winning. And I think it's more than likely that they would just keep it on the New Day just because they're reliable. And they don't seem to have put up any kind of like problems during this whole pandemic. So you get a former 8-time tag team champions, one of them a former WWE champion, guys that are pure company men through and through. I mean, that's kind of an easy, like, reliable type of thing to stay on. If you give it to the Forgotten Sons, you don't know how they're going to work out. You don't know if people are going to stop tuning in and stuff. But then again, it's WWE. They don't really care about the tag team division anyway. So they could just be like, let's put it on the Forgotten Sons and see what happens. And if it fails, then we could just change it, you know?
And people aren't tuning in anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And I don't think that any of these 4 teams are really to blame for that.
No, I don't think that that's really going to change too much. But you never know in WWE what they want to focus on. They could very much easily complain that, like, the reason that the ratings aren't happening is because they decided to change the ring posts or something like that. Like, they have some weird ideas sometimes. But I'm going to go very slightly in the direction of the New Day as my final pick for this.
Yeah, New Day retains.
Forgotten Sons.
So on the topic of like some other potential matches that they could add to the card, I'm looking at the roster right now, and we talked about the Street Profits against the Viking Raiders. That seems like a possibility. Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus seems like a possibility. They're doing a lot of stuff lately where they're having like people from NXT wrestle a lot more on Raw and SmackDown, and it's hard to kind of see where they're going in that direction and stuff. But one thing that's confusing about as far as like the direction of who's on what roster and what's happening with this and stuff is Chad Gable, Shorty G, whatever, and Mustafa Ali are both in the running to potentially be this character that's like the hacker thing. Now lately, a lot of people have been going, it's CM Punk. It's not. It's not going to be CM Punk. They're not bringing it back that way. But they don't seem to be going in any specific direction with this character. And there's no feud set up right now, at the very least. Maybe they'll do something on Friday. I'm not anticipating anything with the hacker. And if so, I think it'll just be another, like, backstage segment type thing or something like that. But, I mean, we got Cesaro, we got Shinsuke Nakamura. We got nothing's happened with Mojo Rawley recently. Like, what else do we have? What other options are there?
Well, regarding the hacker, I do think we see something at the pay-per-view because in the latest video, the code to unlock the phone is the date for Money in the Bank. So I think they got to be doing something to progress that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mandy and Sonya get a rematch because they're going to fight on Friday. But I expect them to have a rematch at the pay-per-view. There's a lot. Andrade's not working, is he?
No, he's not.
They could always put him against Carrillo for the millionth time, you know?
God, that's the last thing I need.
You never know.
There's nothing with Jinder Mahal right now. Maybe they give him a squash. Kevin Owens is injured.
Yeah.
Mojo's injured. They haven't done anything with R-Truth. What's up with this whole Edge and Randy Orton thing?
I don't know, but they're back next week. What do you guys think will happen there?
Wasn't that the same promo that they had run before?
It was, but then they did confirm it on Twitter that, hey, Edge and Randy next week.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, obviously, if they're advertising that for Raw, I'm not anticipating that they're going to do anything on Money in the Bank, but that is strange that they're continuing that feud instead of just like Edge starts working with somebody else. And...
Maybe they don't even continue it. Maybe it's just Edge and Randy Orton will be on the show next week.
It's just like Edge is sitting there in the audience, and then eventually Randy Orton just comes over and he's just kind of like, hey, Where's catering or something? They're just like, Edge and Randy Orton are back, that kind of thing.
You never know. Again, never know.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list. I don't think that there's anything else that stands out to me other than if they just start doing like Cedric and Ricochet have another tag team match, or Jinder beats Carrillo, or
Maybe they're really banking on this ladder match to take up 75 minutes of the show.
Maybe. Yeah, let's move on. Actually, before we move on, quick plug. Check out the Patreon I mentioned before if you want us to do anything in particular that we haven't done yet, or we haven't done in a while, or you just really want to do the pick your poison tier. Take advantage of that, and we will get around to doing that because that's kind of the whole point. But anything that you can toss our way from your spare change, even if it's $1, goes a long way to helping support us during this horrible ad revenue season and all the other stuff that goes along with that. So if you do donate to the Patreon, it is greatly, greatly appreciated in any fashion at all. And the $10 and up tiers give you access to the Dark Casts, which we'll probably be doing one of those sometime next week or so. Trying to think about some options for that. I was talking to Rob before about maybe doing like a tier list of the wrestlers, maybe doing some kind of just like a grab bag, random sort of topics type thing. I don't really know. And if you do have any suggestions of what you would like to hear from that, then tell us that in the comment section below too. And obviously, if you want to help support us on monetary side of things in a different way, one way to do that is the TeePublic and Redbubble shops. There are the merchandise options for t-shirts and stickers and eventually masks that I'm trying to figure out some ideas for, and all sorts of different things like that. So if you check out the Smark Out Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and A Mango Tees shops on TeePublic and Redbubble, and if you see any designs that you like or you have any ideas of designs, let me know that as well. This match is just Bayley versus Tamina. SmackDown Women's Championship. Who cares?
Tony, are you not impressed? This match is weird because it's Tamina. I think this is only her second one-on-one title match or one-on-one pay-per-view match ever. I gotta imagine Bayley wins. I don't know, but it's 2020. It could easily go to Tamina.
I want Tamina to win. Like, think about this. Bayley, outside of 4 days, has had this title for a year. There is nothing memorable about this whole title reign that she has had. And I've gone down this rabbit hole before. I'll stop myself before I get into the whole, like, this was whatever, in 2 years for this tease with Sasha Banks and all this. But they really are just sort of like not even coasting with this Bayley title reign. Like, they are just getting dragged along, and it's awful. And I could not care less about Bayley for the second time in a row beating Tamina, who has been in the company for 10 years and never won this championship. Fuck it, give it to Tamina. Like, just get me talking.
I mean, it's not infusing in any way whatsoever. The only reason I'd be okay with Tamina winning it is if they decide to use that. It's a 1 month reign and it immediately transitions over to Sonya Deville. The actual most over women, most in an actual over feud on the women's side of things on SmackDown. Like, get that title into the Mandy Rose Sonya Deville space rather than Bayley, who's been a drag, and Tamina, who's terrible in the ring and has never been any good anyway. But the likelihood is that Bayley will retain. There'll be some more teasing of the inevitable Sasha Banks and Bayley breakup, and I don't know, Bayley will face someone else at the next pay-per-view, more teasing, and then maybe at SummerSlam we get that match.
I know that somebody in our group chat for the Triple Threat stuff somebody I think had mentioned the idea of you don't really think that they're going to have Sasha cost Bayley the match, and it's like no, that can't be the way that they go about this. But
They could have Sasha accidentally
yeah,
cost Bayley the match.
that would be kind of interesting. Like shit, I mean, if you want me to just be like, just throw everything up in the air and just give me some weird stuff, have Bayley lose the belt to Tamina, give Money in the Bank to Dana Brooke. And even though they're in completely different areas, they're technically supposed to be like they're pretending like this is happening live. Their one group of people is supposed to be in Stamford, and the other group of people is supposed to be in Florida. Fuck it, have Tamina get cashed in on by Dana Brooke. She just teleported over to Florida and she won the title too. Like, just do it, just whatever. It's like this belt sucks, and this whole Bayley thing is awful. This match is going to be awful. Nobody cares.
Realistically, do you guys see anybody potentially winning the briefcase and utilizing it on SmackDown, or is this briefcase all about Becky Lynch?
Well, they did advertise Becky Lynch will be on Raw next week to confront the Money in the Bank winner. So
it's unlikely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I think that they haven't exactly clarified it, but they haven't strictly said that it means the Raw person is winning it. The likelihood is that, it seems to point towards that direction, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a SmackDown person and then Bayley does the same thing on SmackDown to assert her own dominance if she's still holding the title, which I assume she will be.
I mean, the Money in the Bank briefcase is cross-branded. It's not the way that they used to do, where it's like the Raw guys got the Raw briefcase and that kind of thing. But
I don't know. Wasn't last year the year where they were like, well, whoever wins can only challenge for their brand's champion?
They do kind of play with that rule, but they also break their rules all the time. So it wouldn't shock me if they were to try to justify it by saying, well, we can do whatever we want and it's whatever. But it also wouldn't shock me if they just jumped the gun and they were just like, well, it's a Raw one. Like, we'll just run that advertisement for Becky, that kind of thing. But I don't expect Bayley to be a factor in that at all, because not only do they have the whole situation of like the Stanford and Florida type thing, and it would be more like there would have more resonance if she were to drop the title on Money in the Bank, because that's when she won that title. So if they can't really do a cash in on Money in the Bank itself, especially given these options of Dana Brooke, Carmella, and Lacey Evans, I just can't see any of that happening. I'm just imagining Bayley keeps this title, Tamina's just filler, and over the next couple of weeks they do Extreme Rules. That's sometime in like beginning of June, I think. Let me double check about when that is actually.
Yeah, I think it's like June 19th or not 19th. It's middle of June though.
Actually, Backlash is next.
Really?
Yeah.
When is Extreme Rules? July?
Backlash is June 14th, and then Extreme Rules is July 19th.
Huh.
So I don't know. Maybe that means that they won't do that Jeff Hardy Sheamus thing, or maybe they'll just have 3 matches between the two of them. Maybe it'll be Sheamus wins one and Hardy
It'll
wins
be
another one at
Jeff,
Backlash,
Sheamus,
and
then Hardy in like some kind of
yeah,
ladder match or something.
last man standing or some bullshit like that. But I got to imagine that this whole like Tamina's in the way for this. Then Backlash, it's probably Bayley against like Carmella, and then Extreme Rules, it's probably a Fatal 4-Way or something like that, and then we get the Sasha Banks thing or something. But just blah. Like, if you could go back in time a year and have the Bayley cash in on Charlotte, who just beat Becky 2 belts, all that stuff, and go, hey, a year from now, Bayley's going to be a heel champion still from this title reign outside of 4 days. And it's going to be, and then you list all the other things that are going along with this. Like, it's going to be an empty arena thing, and the Money in the Bank is going to take place at Stamford, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And they're still not going to have that Sasha Banks feud. And her opponent's going to be, for the second month in a row, Tamina. It'll be like, oh my God, what the hell happened in 2019 and 2020? I'm going Bayley wins. It is what it is.
Yeah, Bayley wins in a match which I think barely gets a star on the ranking scale.
Yeah. And if Tamina wins, you know what? Fuck it. Awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Well, no, but like it's kind of along the lines of what Tony was saying. Like, it's different. I don't want to see Tamina win and Dana Brooke win. I think that's a little extreme that Tony is putting out there. But Bayley's been underwhelming. I just want them to do the Sasha match, just so we can see a good match from Bayley.
You know why it's such an extreme thing? You're building to
Why?
Extreme Rules. Tamina versus Dana Brooke, Extreme Rules match at Extreme Rules.
Jesus, I'm starting to hate you so much I might donate to that Patreon.
I should have a tier of that. Some like $8 tier, like some weird amount where it's like that, where it's just like the F you, Tony, stop making these stupid jokes things. Cain Velasquez is going to win the title. Here's a match I'm actually interested in, though. It's Drew McIntyre defending the WWE Championship against Seth Rollins. This, and I guess I just jumped the gun a little bit. Braun Strowman defending the Universal Championship against Bray Wyatt. Both of these, I feel, are so perfect for like the next opponent for these people. I'm going to focus a little bit on the McIntyre thing right now, but like to me, Rollins had his feud with Brock Lesnar. They did that whole thing. He was the champion for the majority of 2019. And this feud with Kevin Owens right after that took up all the rest of his time. Now that he is not feuding with Owens and he's still doing the Monday Night Messiah thing, it makes perfect sense that he would want to be the new, well, not new, but reattain his status as the face of Monday Night Raw, challenge the new champion. And he's a former world champion multi-time. He's a main event guy. This is a perfect opportunity for somebody to build a feud like this. Like this is logical. And I'm not used to that happening in current WWE at the very least. So I like this, and I think that they're going to have a really good match too.
I agree, and I've been dealing with this on some of the other podcasts that I'm on. This idea that Drew McIntyre is kind of like a Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels champion, where he's not really carrying the ball. What fucking ball is there to carry? There's like he's been handed a bag of shit, and I hope to God when things go back to normal that they don't try to fault Drew McIntyre for anything that's happened over the last few weeks or months. I think this should be a great match, easily the best one that's just a standard wrestling match on the show. And I'm looking forward to it. I think Seth Rollins has no chance, but that's okay because Drew McIntyre just got the belt.
Oh, this is so dull. This whole feud, this whole Rollins character. It's you talk about logical. Yes, it makes sense that a guy that was the former Universal Champion for the past year and the last person to really beat Brock Lesnar before McIntyre took him down would challenge him for it. What's not logical is a guy that lost at WrestleMania getting the next opportunity at the WWE Championship, but I guess he'll just move past that one.
Well, they have no choice.
Yeah, I mean they had the choice, and they decided that we'll have Owens win, and then Rollins will just become the number one contender immediately afterwards because why not?
I mean that's fair. That's fair.
It's just Rollins has been so underwhelming with this character. I just don't think that he has any. I know the idea is meant to be speaking very monotone and be very deliberate, but it's not striking me like the Chris Jericho. Like that style of character from like 2008 or whatever. It's striking me as just very, very, it's very dull because he's just talking too much, and it's so badly scripted, and it's just really, really not infusing at all. I mean, McIntyre, at least with McIntyre, they're keeping it reasonably short and succinct what he's saying. They're letting him say shit on TV, so I guess that's like fine. In that regard, they're giving him some opportunity to do that, but I just don't have too much interest in it, even though I know the match will be good because both of these guys are really good workers. I just don't care. And I just want McIntyre to beat Rollins, and then Rollins to not so much go away for a while, but just go down the card and fight with someone else, rediscover an actual personality. Because he was
My
good for a
guess
while in like
is
2018, 2019.
my guess is that if Edge really is coming back next week, he'll be fighting Seth Rollins at SummerSlam.
See, that's fine. Just give it's a fresh matchup that we haven't seen before. I'm not saying this one isn't. It's not like this has been done over and over again. Although we did see quite a bit of it since McIntyre's been on the Raw brand. These two have kind of crossed paths quite often. But I just don't feel like it's got it. It doesn't feel like a really highly anticipated grudge WWE Championship match. It just feels like, okay, this is the one after WrestleMania that McIntyre is clearly going to win against a guy of some value. I mean, it seems quite obvious they're building up Lashley as the next challenger for the title, and they're actually building up some steam with him. So I'm not saying I'm super infused for that one either, but that one feels a bit more different. At least it means that McIntyre and Bobby Lashley wouldn't be teaming up for the however many times they were during that feud with the Shield.
I don't know for sure if I think that Lashley is being built up that far.
I don't think they would have had him go through basically half the in that Gauntlet match, go through half the people lined up for it, unless they weren't going to build him towards at least like a one-off match for the WWE Championship.
It wouldn't shock me if they were building him to a match with somebody like a Kevin Owens or something, though, as opposed to that. But then again, if we do have Backlash and Extreme Rules, they could get away with just like Drew McIntyre's next challenger at Backlash is Bobby Lashley. Like that'd be an easy throwaway type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount of other options out there. I mean, there's AJ Styles. If you wanted to do face versus face, you can put Aleister Black in there. If you wanted to drop the title from Andrade, you could make him the challenger for it. So it's not there's a huge amount of options past Seth Rollins at this point.
If you were going to book these next couple things for McIntyre, how would you guys go about it? Because now I'm thinking about that, and you just said, you know, if you want to do something with Andrade or whatever like that, I think that I tend to go in more in the direction of, unless something weird happens and somebody like gets injured or something really catches on as like super interesting and people are just like, we got to put the belt on this person because they're just like, crowds fucking love them kind of a thing. I think it's better when people win the title at WrestleMania that they at least hold it until SummerSlam. So I would rather have like, as much as it's sort of throwaway, and I do agree that like Seth Rollins kind of reads off as a guy that McIntyre is going to beat, but I buy more into Rollins potentially winning that title more than like a Bobby Lashley. So to me, Bobby Lashley gets thrown away at Backlash. In the meantime, Andrade drops that United States title, and then Andrade versus Drew McIntyre at Extreme Rules, and then probably McIntyre against probably AJ Styles at SummerSlam.
I'd go along a similar lines, except I think it'll be Orton at Styles, not at SummerSlam, not Styles.
Yeah, I forgot about Orton. Yeah, Randy Orton against Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. Yeah.
I would say that depending on what they want to do with that briefcase, AJ Styles looks like he could carry a month or two. And then you move on to, I don't know, either Orton or maybe a bigger superstar, maybe even like a multi-man at SummerSlam. But I hope that Drew McIntyre makes it to SummerSlam. I hope they don't get like, well, let's have Rollins beat him here and then have him win the rematch and then Rollins drops it to Edge at SummerSlam. You know what I mean? Like, because they could do that. They could get nervous and try to pop the rating. And who's to say, by the way, I know we're thinking Orton and other names, but what if Brock Lesnar's back by SummerSlam?
Yeah, they could always do that. I hope not, but they could. Especially if that ends up being where they potentially have a crowd. Then they might be like, Brock, you need to come back, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Plus, you gotta. I mean, it sounds kind of weird to say, but you got to start planning for WrestleMania too. So if you go through Rollins, Lashley, Andrade, Lesnar, Orton, Styles, who else is there for McIntyre to fight at WrestleMania?
Jinder.
God, I forgot
Yeah,
about
there is
Jinder.
the gender match.
Yeah, so screw that. All right, it might even be better to do Jinder versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. Oddly enough,
As long as they're actually willing to build Jinder up this time,
yeah.
rather than just have him, just be a jobber and then 2 weeks
It-
later he's done like a contender.
It's super weird that everybody's looking toward that match when it's like the quote unquote implosion of a jobber stable from 7 years ago, with the quote unquote leader of the stable now released from the company.
It's because people like at least fondly remember it, and that feud is one of the few things that Jinder could do that at least puts him in a reasonable main event position, because there's a history behind it and there's a story you can tell behind it. Part of the reason why Jinder's rise to WWE Championship status is because it was so manufactured because he's Indian. This actually has a reason for him to want to challenge McIntyre and want to take the WWE Championship from him, because they go back a long way.
That's true.
I'd be cool with Jinder Mahal feuding for the WWE Championship against Drew McIntyre. Again, only Drew McIntyre, and he'd
Yeah.
have to lose. But
Yeah.
but I'm cool with that idea, as long as they build him up and give him some wins over jobbers and like have him build to momentum going into it, as opposed to, okay, I was losing this week on Raw, next week on SmackDown, I'm the one contender for the WWE Championship, and I win it in my first ever attempt at the WWE Championship, that sort of thing.
At the very least, this proves that Drew McIntyre's got a lot of options, so he damn sure better retain this title.
Yeah, he definitely should. I think the Rollins Edge match that was to happen at SummerSlam doesn't need a title attached to it.
Right.
Well, I would agree, but I'm saying, at what point do they start hitting the panic button?
I think they start hitting the panic button when they come back to be falling in front of crowds and the ratings don't go back up.
You think next week's show, with a potential Money in the Bank winner or two, Edge and Orton, will see an increase in ratings?
Who knows?
Based off of this past rating, it better.
Well, yeah. It kind of, if it doesn't, then I don't know what. I mean, they can't blame it on the star power side of things. They can only blame it on the fact that people just aren't interested in watching WWE right now.
I'm sure they'll blame it on anything else other than that.
Oh yeah, they'll blame it on
It's
everything.
because we don't have Lesnar.
It's because the crowds aren't there and people don't want to watch a show that there's no crowd or anything along those lines. But yeah, the bigger worry about the whole ratings thing is just the fact that, as the Monday Night Football thing Monday Night Football thing has kind of proved, that it's becoming like less and less people are coming back to wrestling after they stop watching for a period of time. So now that the ratings have dropped off by a good few 100,000 from what they would typically be at this point, it's wondering how many of those couple of 100,000 want to come back once things return to normal, and what ones kind of think, oh yeah, I feel happier not watching this stuff and constantly raging on Twitter about it.
Well, I'm going McIntyre retaining here. I think that they have a lot of options of some interesting things going forward. And with Rollins, it's just not the same. So I am excited for this match. I think it'll be good. And I do like that they're doing this feud. I do agree that Rollins can be a little less droll, but it makes sense.
I'm going McIntyre as well.
Yeah, McIntyre will win, and I don't want a rematch.
Yeah, I'd be cool with not having a rematch too.
Yeah, bring on Jinder or Bobby.
And I think that the Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt feud makes perfect sense. Bray Wyatt should try to win that title back again. He had this match with Goldberg at Super Showdown. He lost the title. He went straight into this whole thing with John Cena. Now that that's out of the way, he wants his title back. Makes perfect sense. He's got history with Braun Strowman, so that makes sense. Braun Strowman is the top dog, and he should be fighting main event talent. and The Fiend was just the main event talent. Like, this is the most logical thing for them to do, which is weird that they did that for both title feuds.
Except the logic of he's not the Fiend for this one.
They could always go back on that whole thing. I mean, they're advertising it with like the pictures of him in the sweater. But then again, who's to say on SmackDown this week they don't just have the Fiend pop up and then, whatever. Or maybe it's Becky Lynch.
That is a possibility, but the only other time they ever advertised Bray Wyatt in the sweater was TLC, and he did face and defeat The Miz as, the Funhouse Bray. So while it won't be terrible, and I'm sure they're doing that to stretch it out for some rematches and get, the Fiend in the rematches, it does make me think Braun has to win here or some crazy DQ finish.
Yeah, I'm happy with this feud taking place. It makes the most sense out of like anything that Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt could have done. They've got long-term history, a long-term story behind it. I wouldn't be surprised on this one if Bray Wyatt was to win. Just simply due to the fact that they have a history of giving Strowman something and then immediately taking it away from him.
Yeah.
They've done it with the Intercontinental, done it with the tag team title.
Yeah, he's lost every single championship that he's had by, I think, his first defense. The tag title that he won with Nicholas, he dropped it the next night. The tag title with Rollins, they lost at the next pay-per-view. The Intercontinental title, he might have defended it on like SmackDown or something, but he lost it at God, was that Extreme Rules? No, Extreme Rules, Elimination Chamber?
Yeah.
And then the Greatest Royal Rumble belt was a belt that he held up and 20 minutes later didn't exist. So they could do that. If that's the case, then my God, how many times do you want to shoot this guy in the foot? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it would make sense in a way because realistically, their original plan was that Bray Wyatt would hold the Universal Championship going into WrestleMania and drop it to Roman Reigns. And I guess the original plan was, or the plan post that was Goldberg enters with the title and drops it to Roman Reigns. It's the fact that Roman Reigns isn't involved anymore that's the big issue. So it's whether they want to put the title back on Bray Wyatt so that perhaps by SummerSlam, when if things are potentially back to normal, that okay, so we've just retconned what would happen at WrestleMania and just do it in SummerSlam instead. So Bray Wyatt defends the title against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania at SummerSlam instead.
Just real quick to get your takes on this. That weird thing of Roman being cut out of the Mania montage, the edit of Rollins winning the belt. Do you guys think anything about that? Like, there's all this rumor that you don't even bother thinking or bringing up Roman Reigns on TV, and then they do that.
I think they were just trying to emphasize the fact that it's Rollins beating Brock Lesnar to coincide with McIntyre's beating like Brock Lesnar. I try not to read too much into it, but of course that could be the case, but I don't think there's any real use speculating over it.
I totally can see them being petty enough to do that.
Oh, they could be, yeah. I'm not saying that's definitely out of the question. I don't feel like it benefits anybody in any way to kind of say, oh, that's definitely them trying to make us all forget about Roman because Roman refuses to come to work or whatever and things like that. It's just I don't know whether this is like a redone like 2020 version of Steve Austin taking his ball and going home, that sort of thing.
See, that I think can play a big factor into this Strowman and Wyatt thing. If they are looking at Strowman right now as the guy who, because I don't know if you guys know this whole story, but he talked about it on the bump. Strowman decided that he was not going to be in Florida during this whole situation. And he had packed up a lot of his things, and I guess he has like a plot of land in like Pennsylvania or something like that.
It's like from like Wisconsin or some shit.
Just Montana, like I don't know, some area, France, whatever it was. He had planned on just like flying over there, driving over there, whatever it was, and just kind of like hanging out and doing whatever. and they decided, hey, we need you to come and be fighting Goldberg at WrestleMania. So they called him up when he was on his way to that area, and he basically had to stop and turn right back around and do that kind of thing. If they're looking at this as like Roman left us with our well, I was going to say it's something that probably would get demonetized, but you know, our pants around our ankles. That's a better way of saying it. Um, if they look at that as like that, and Braun Strowman is the guy that came at the last, 11th hour and saved them from not having a worse situation, they might be like, oh my God, Braun Strowman, that's the guy that we're going to push. He's a company man, all this other kind of stuff. And this might be the idea of Braun beats the Sweater Bray, and then the Fiend and Braun wrestle at Backlash, and then they potentially have another match at Extreme Rules, and that's the way that they just drag this out. And they do have the option of like King Corbin can fight Braun Strowman, and some other people like that. They could do a rematch with Sami Zayn if he drops the Intercontinental title, or they could even do title versus title, or like they've got some options that they can play around with. But maybe they think that at the very least, let's go with Braun, and if we need to have Bray win the title again, he can win it at Extreme Rules, and we could have a match between Bray and, say, Roman at SummerSlam. Or, at that point, we could have Braun versus Roman at SummerSlam. Or whoever, I'm leaning a little bit more towards the idea that they're going to be more positive on Braun right now than they were in the past. If not just because they actually put the title on him, which they went all out of their way to do convoluted methods not to do that in the past. And I think maybe now they might just be like, let's throw the guy a bone. He might drop it before SummerSlam. He might drop it at SummerSlam. But I'm going to go Braun Strowman wins this. And I don't think necessarily that he's going to lose that title at least until Extreme Rules.
I think Strowman is going to retain here, just because if they are going to drop him, if he's going to drop it to Bray Wyatt, it will be the Fiend Bray Wyatt rather than the Sweater Bray Wyatt. I mean, I guess it depends on which one shows up for this match, but if they have advertised it as like Sweater Bray Wyatt, then he'll wrestle him, he'll lose, the Fiend will attack Braun Strowman, the feud continues, and then we'll see what goes from there. Realistically, whoever's holding it at this point is just keeping it warm until Roman can come back and win it. So
I think Braun beats Sweater Bray and forces the Fiend out of him, and then the Fiend gets it at Backlash.
It'd be kind of interesting if they did like the Fiend against Braun next time, and then Braun's like, hey, I still have a dark side in me too, remember? And then he becomes like, different type of black sheep versus the Fiend at Extreme Rules. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, sorry, we entered an era of WWE where everyone has a super-powered alter ego.
Well, we're entering an era of cinematic matches.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you might need to do that.
This is a random side thing, but isn't it funny how that quickly the term cinematic match became a thing?
Yeah.
Yet, after all these years, DC movies still can't figure out what the fuck they should call them. They're like, everybody keeps calling it the DC Extended Universe, which makes no sense. And there has never been a single document in any fashion or just anything at all from DC that has ever endorsed the idea of the DCEU. But everybody just made up this term, and they were like, I don't know, we ought to call it something because they're not doing that. This has been going on for like a decade or more, whatever the hell it was. And it's like, WWE is like, I don't know, how about we do like the Boneyard match, cinematic matches, that's what we're calling it from now on. And everybody's like, all right, we're on board, cinematic matches is what they're called. And it's like, in the span of a month during a pandemic, we figured out this whole, like, from now on, this is what that term's going to be. And, we can't even figure out if the Batman is going to be a movie that's tied in with the Flash, or if the Flash is even working. Stupid. Anyway, if you want more rants about stuff like that, check out fanboysanonymous.com because I'd love to do some more rants about that stuff. Oh, by the way, actually, yeah, quick plug for that. If you are into DC, and you want to check out my thoughts on Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, that movie came out, and I watched it and put up my review. So the Making the Grade is up on the website. Check that out. And share your support for Fanboys Anonymous. Patreon, follows, favorites, all that stuff. Just keep clicking around on that. Yeah. I just think that's funny because it's just like, all right, there's cinematic matches now, and that's where we're going. And that's where we're going with this Money in the Bank thing, too. And this,
They should be called Cinematches.
they should.
Oh man.
Cinematches would just be quicker and more efficient. You know what?
Mm.
There you go. Plant the flag. Callum said it. Cinematches. And you can do crossovers with Cinemassacre.
You could finally officially say we make movies now.
That's true.
I think that's why they're gonna stick around even when there's people.
I think it'll be one of those things that slowly dies. Maybe they'll revisit it once in a while, but once we got people, they're going to go full force into we've got people again. Remember how fun this is? And then they'll forget about it. But this
They'll
is
start doing
weird.
loads of matches in the crowd.
Maybe they'll do that. This is going to be like the pandemic match, and it's just going to be like everybody has to social distancing within the crowd or something.
It's like it's a lumberjack match, but everyone's coughing at ringside, so that's like the added danger.
If you know they have a mask versus mask match, but it's actually a face mask and not like Mysterio. Oh god,
a PPE on a pole match.
Yeah.
God, they're gonna do these, and then we're gonna look back in a couple months and be like, "Oh, why did we joke?" We've got the men's and the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and it's the same match somehow. And this is stupid. I hate this. I already think it's going to be terrible. I don't know how they're going to do this, and I especially don't know how they're going to do this well. If they kept these separate, I think they could be a lot of fun. For the most part, I think if they did one match of just one of these, it could be a lot of fun, more so than two of the same thing and stuff like that. Like, they couldn't really do it with the whole, like, oh, it's favoritism and stuff like that, but, like, I would have preferred, for instance, say, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match to be a part of that live section, and the men's one to be at the corporate headquarters, or vice versa. I mean, I think that the men's, like, they could have more fun with, like, Otis, for instance, than they could with Dana Brooke. But the fact that they're doing this at the same time, it's going to be so overbooked. This is going to be a mess.
But it's not a booking. It's just a movie. You're just doing several random cuts of people fighting all over a building. Like, have you seen the Belko Experiment?
No.
Where, like...
I know the movie what you're talking about, but I didn't see the movie.
Okay, so it's like that, where you're just... Like, you can just cut to random people fighting all over the place.
Yeah, it's not going to be a case of, like, them... It's probably going to be very rare instances of, like, all 6 people, or all 12 people even, like, fighting in one shot or whatever. It's just going to be a load of, like, single shots of certain people just fighting, and then it's the cut away to, oh, so Asuka's beating up Nia Jax, and then the cut away to Aleister Black kicking the head off AJ Styles or whatever. So just, like, do that constantly. It's going to be a mess, but...
It's going to have to be a mess at some point because they're all reaching towards the same goal.
Yeah.
But it might lead to fun spots, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that it's going to necessarily be terrible considering how well some of their most recent cinematic matches or cinematches that I'm now going to refer them to have gone. So I have a reasonable amount of fun. At the very least, I think it's going to be an interesting car crash.
Yeah. It's why I want to watch the show. I'm very much looking forward to Sunday, so I can watch this match.
The most interesting thing is how are they going to film them scaling the building? It's like the idea of them all just being in the, in the stairs at one point. I mean, surely that's the thing. It's like it's a race to the staircase or the elevator, and then just walking up the elevator all the time. I know that's the way that it should be done if they're actually trying to reach the top, but obviously they'll just do spots of them going into different conference rooms and destroying bits and pieces. That's also the bigger the bigger issue. How much damage is going to be done to their headquarters in the course of filming this match, or how much has been done in the course of filming this?
Well, they do have that other headquarters that they wanted to move into, so maybe this is just like clearing.
Yeah, so they're getting rid
out
of the building anyway.
You know.
Yeah, but they're delaying that because they're being fiscally responsible. You know, that's the same reason why they got rid of a third of their roster.
Maybe they got rid of some of the people on the roster because they knew how much damage they were going to do with this. They're just sort of looking at somebody like a Curtis Axel. They're like, well, we're going to have to get rid of that wall. Hey, Joe. You know, hear about the price of a wall. How about we do this? You know, let's take some bets, I guess you could put it. Some things that we know are going to happen. Somebody is going to go into an elevator, for sure.
They should
and
do. It'll be Corbin.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Is it Corbin who rides the elevator to the top?
It's got to be fucking Otis. Otis doesn't want to walk up all those steps.
Well, what I really want to see is like Corbin thinking that he's so smart getting into an elevator, and then like he gets up to the next floor and the door opens and he just gets kicked in the head by Aleister Black or something like that. That'd be... See, Corbin is entertaining when he's getting beaten up. That's really the most fun that you can get out of Baron Corbin.
See, what I'm thinking,
the realistic
is Nia Jax gets in there. And somebody does something to block her from getting out of it. Like,
that'd be good. Yeah.
I don't know, they press all the buttons on the elevator or something weird, where it's like they're not going to be able to figure out a way to have, like, you know, they cut the cable and the elevator shaft falls or something like that. But like, you know, maybe they do something where it's like, you know how they did that 24/7 thing where it was like EC3, Drake Maverick, R-Truth, everybody's like stuck in the elevator for like half the episode of Raw. I think they're going to do that. And it's going to be somebody like Nia, who is like a big threat, is stuck in the elevator. And then everybody else has to go through the steps. Even though there should be more than one elevator. But like...
when did WWE become wacky racist? Like, what is this?
When the crowd disappeared and they had to make do with other things instead. I mean...
I have no doubt... Go ahead.
I was going to say, imagine there's going to be a few callbacks to that advert they did during the Attitude Era, where everyone was fighting in the corporate offices.
I hope so. That'd be great. And
somebody getting thrown off the roof.
That's another one I wanted to say. They keep teasing this idea that somebody's getting thrown off the roof, and
they can't do that.
They could do it in a weird way.
I know that there's the bizarre thing of like the Undertaker crawling out of managing to magically transport out of a grave and get behind AJ Styles. That's the Undertaker. The Undertaker's always done crazy shit like that. Like that's part of his character. You can't exactly have, I don't know, let's throw Otis off the top of the Titan Towers and it's like him being okay next week to wrestle Dolph Ziggler or whatever.
I think they've got a lot of opportunities to do some weird shit. Like
so maybe they don't go from the top. But like somebody gets pushed out of a window from like the second floor or something.
I can imagine someone going through like a glass partition or something like that.
Yeah, somebody gets thrown through glass for sure. But if they're gonna fall, they're gonna fall from the top. Because that's
and
what
you
want to
can
see.
Put a crash pad down somewhere. They don't have to fall, however many stories down.
The only time that I'd see that being potential is that like that happens to AJ Styles, and that's AJ Styles' new gimmick is that he dies in matches constantly, but he keeps coming back.
The immortal phenomenal one. Like, I've seen people talk about the idea that they could do that, and I think it's kind of funny. But they could
oh my god, they killed AJ.
They could do the whole reference thing of Hogan and the Giant falling off the building.
Yeah, but that was stupid.
I know, but they could reference it. Like they could do the whole thing with like
something that happened in WCW.
Because it's stupid and silly, and this is awful.
Exactly. I'm all cool with like this new cinematic direction that they're going with because some of it's really good. Like I know like the final deletion is not everybody's cup of tea, but like if you just watch it and you're just trying to have fun, then that's great. But like the Giant thing was just incredibly hokey stuff. Like I think it's fine as long as you don't suspend total bounds of disbelief in terms of, I don't know, someone falling off a 40-story building and then coming back to wrestle in a couple of weeks. It's not really going to work.
Oh, I full on want King Corbin to pick up Rey Mysterio and throw him like a lawn dart off of the building. Like, just full on. Woo. You see him flying and don't
No,
hear
really, it should be
anything.
Corbin that goes off, and then he's like the Wile E. Coyote thing. You could have the screenshot of him just holding the sign up or whatever.
Oh, do it all. Have him
Yeah.
throw Rey Mysterio off, and then have Rey Mysterio pop back up, like how Bugs Bunny would just like show up right behind him, that kind of thing. And then he just like stomps on Corbin's foot or something like that, and then like hits him with a mallet, and then some TNT explodes, and the anvil falls on top of Corbin, and then he's all flattened, and says some kind of one of those like, "Oh, it must be Monday" type of thing. Or something. maybe
I
they just have like
someone take a pet photo of it afterwards, just like Corbin just clinging onto the side of it, just saying "hang in there, baby" or something like that.
Yeah, maybe this has all been building up to Ricochet being a part of this, and he's just flying in the air around corporate headquarters. And, this thing could be the most brilliant train wreck ever, but I think that it's just going to be a train wreck. And I actually, even like the 50% of this whole thing, I think just doesn't make any sense anyway, because for the women's division section, I don't want any of them to win. And for the men's, I'm cool with almost every single one of them winning. So it's like, I'm really hoping that they film this in a way that it doesn't get so bogged down and overbooking it, whatever, that it's just frustrating to watch. But I'm also hoping that they don't do anything really stupid like Nia Jax wins both briefcases. Or Shayna wins the men's one because she grabbed that instead. And then, like, I don't want anything like that.
I can imagine them doing something stupid along the lines of, like, the women's one gets won by somebody and Nia Jax is pissed about it, so she goes after the men's one. And then gets out. Well, she can't get out KO'd because there's not a match, but I could see her getting hit by just every guy's finisher again, because that seems to be part of her character now as well. So that she likes to mix it up with the guys.
That I'd be okay with, as long as she wouldn't win.
No, she wouldn't win, but like it would just be a case of like, oh, I don't know, Dana Brooke won the briefcase and Nia Jax pissed about it, so she decides, oh fuck it, I'm just going to win the men's one instead.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of Randy Orton just coming out of nowhere and like Nia Jax.
Just you hear the Riot of the Valkyries, and you're thinking, oh, Dana Bryan's going to do something, but you hear bum 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 bum, and Randy Orton's on a helicopter waiting to RKO her. Like, that'd be great.
And, just like part of the other ideas they could do for like the cinematic side of things, they should do some section of it which is just like this mad dash of fighting, and it's to mirror the old intro to Monday Night Raw, where everyone was fighting on top of Titan Towers.
They had the police.
Yeah.
Was that the one with the fire?
No, I think that was the Austin one afterwards.
Okay. Yeah,
but
those
two
like
it was like Michaels and stuff like that fighting people on top of the Titan Towers.
I think Mabel's in that one. You should remember that.
I forget the lyrics, but that's the whole like kind of thing, right?
No, that's the Austin one.
Damn, I keep
the one where they actually fight on the roof. They don't use for more than like 2 weeks, and then most of that footage gets used in the X Titantron.
Oh yeah, with the cop thing.
Yep.
Huh. I didn't even think about that. A little bit of trivia for you. So was that Thorn in Your Eye? What was the song that they used for that intro?
It's some random Jim Johnston song called I Like It Raw. It's very unmemorable.
I always liked that back in the day. I want references to things. I want them to do things like fight in the warehouse section. I want them
to break into Vince McMahon's office.
I want them to use the dinosaur thing. Like Daniel Bryan alluded to it.
Said he was going to use the dinosaur thing.
Yeah, they alluded to it, and he's got it in his office. Do it. Have him pick up the dinosaur bones and use it. Like, have somebody. I don't know if you want to do this, but have that Montalvo guy pop up.
Jesus, Tony. God, they're really trying to make me hate you and donate to that Patreon.
Cain Velasquez is winning the Money in the Bank.
About a Linda McMahon cameo.
She's just like sitting there, like stone faced.
Yeah, she's comatose, like.
Yeah.
And then she stands up, and somehow, with no people, there's an amazing pop.
I don't think like the McMahon involved. It looks like them just trashing all the different McMahon's offices and stuff like that.
I think there has to be some kind of Vince involvement. Like, there should be a segment where they break into the gym and Vince is working out and he just goes, "That's good shit," and like that's it.
Or it's just like
someone
an
has to get thrown off.
Pro.
Oh, I would love Ico Pro references.
Hang on, if someone has to get thrown off the building, why can't it be Kevin Dunn?
Well, because it has to be a little realistic. They're not going to fire Kevin Dunn.
No, he could soar from the bottom and like just use his giant beaver teeth to just flap him and keep him alive.
What if they have mannequins of George Barrios and Michelle Wilson? It's just like, I don't know, like Corbin or Shayna Baszler or somebody just like picks him up and throws him off, and you just hear like the Willem scream from movies. They could have a lot of fun with this. It could be a lot of weird stuff, but at the end of the day, somehow people have to win. And I am looking at the women's Money in the Bank options. It's not Dana Brooke. I don't think it's Asuka, even though she's one of the Raw people. I don't think it's Carmella. I don't think it's Lacey. I think it's either Nia or Shayna. And I'm hoping that it's Shayna. But at the same time, I don't want any of them to win, because I don't want Shayna to win the title from Becky by cashing in and just being cheap. But I don't want any other options to happen. So I'd rather at least have Shayna be the one that's like the shark in the water than for it to be like Nia wins and she just has some shitty feud for the next 2 months with Becky, you know?
It's got to be Nia.
Nia's going to win,
really harping on Nia. I mean, barring Ronda Rousey coming down from a helicopter, just sneaking away with the briefcase Fast and Furious style, I don't see anything happening here where it's not Nia Jax.
Yeah, see, because I can't see any scenario where, especially now that they've said that, Becky Lynch is going to confront the winner of the Money in the Bank briefcase. It's not going to be Asuka because they feuded for the vast majority of the start of the year. It's not going to be Shayna Baszler because they already fought at WrestleMania. It's not going to be Lacey Evans because they feuded for a lot of 2019. Carmella doesn't make any sense. Dana Brooke doesn't make any sense because Becky would just treat her as like, unless the idea with the Dana Brooke thing or the Carmella thing is that Becky sees both of those two as just not a threat whatsoever and just laughs off the fact that they're the Money in the Bank briefcase holder, and you build up a story of them being taken more seriously and getting more victories and showing off more of their ability before cashing in. And that's kind of the way you go with it. So the only one that realistically makes any sense is Nia Jax, because there is an inbuilt history between Nia and Becky. They can play off that side of things. Nia Jax is, I mean, she's not exactly going to sprint down to the ring to cash in at any point in time, but I can imagine like Becky either losing a match or winning a hard fought, like fatal 4-way or something like that. And then Nia just walks down to the ring with the briefcase, beats her up and takes the title, and then she holds it for a few months and Becky wins it back afterwards. That seems like the most likely course of action for me.
I'm going in the convoluted way of she confronts Shayna Baszler, and Baszler says, "Remember I said you are going to pay for beating me at WrestleMania? Well, I'm going to cash in when you least expect it, and blah, blah, blah." And then Nia Jax comes out and goes, "Fuck you, I'm going to whatever." And then they have their little Nia and Becky feud for Backlash and for Extreme Rules. And the whole time Shayna's like, "Hey, remember, I can cash in," like that kind of thing.
That could work as well. I just think that it would just feel a little bit odd about the idea of like confronting somebody who she was just in a feud with.
Yeah, but that's WWE.
Also, I feel like in the Raw side of things, they're building up Liv Morgan at the moment for a title shot.
I don't know where
I'm going with lose to Charlotte.
On the men's side of things, I'm cool with anybody winning for the most part. I don't think, though, it's going to be anybody but AJ Styles for the most part. Daniel Bryan won the briefcase already. He's been a multi-time world champion.
That was 10 years ago, though. This is a different Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, but I don't think
pretty similar Daniel Bryan to the old one.
Actually, yeah, now that he's shaved back down and kind of lost some of the yes power, yeah.
Rey Mysterio, very, very low chance. I mean, think about it. Rey Mysterio as a babyface cashing in on Drew McIntyre? Not going to happen.
That doesn't mean he doesn't have to cash in on McIntyre. I think people forget you can hold this damn thing for a year.
I can't see him cashing in on anybody, though. I think he's there to be the veteran that can get beaten up, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think he's like the sentimental favourite of like, oh, that'd be cool if Mysterio won, but he's not going to. And if he was to cash in, he'd be one of the people that would cash in by telling the person like a month in advance that he's going to cash in for the title shot, that type of thing.
He'd say, I want a title shot at Backlash or something. Yeah. Aleister Black has a very good chance of winning in some ways because he is somebody who's an up-and-comer. He's got a lot of credibility to him. But I can't see him holding this stupid briefcase.
Yeah, that would be so weird for his character, like just him coming up from the smoke and the coffin thing, and him just carrying a green briefcase in his hand.
And the Money in the Bank thing isn't only reserved for heels, but majority of the people that win it are heels, and he could turn heel. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's like, even if you replace the briefcase with a custom briefcase for him where it doesn't look as stupid, it's still going to be a little bit weird. Mm-hmm. And he's the type of guy who's like, I'm going to pick a fight. He shouldn't be the type that would say, I'm going to pick a fight when you're least expecting it and you're already broken down and all that stuff. So I think Black is the type of guy who fits in like the Wade Barrett situation, like what we were talking about before, where we're like, this is a year where we could see him winning, but at the same time, maybe it's not the time. And maybe he wins next year, or maybe he's just world champion next year or something like that. But he hasn't been a mid-card champion yet. And I'm just thinking that it's not as likely. I actually think that Aleister Black has less of a chance of winning this than Otis even does.
Mainly for the stupidity of him holding a green and gold briefcase. But if I was to give him an edge, I would say he's got a pretty great sneak up from behind and just knock you out kind of finisher, which can play into Money in the Bank. So he does have that going for him, but I don't think he needs it.
Me neither.
No, I think they'll build him up pretty naturally.
I think Otis would be only just a joke. So I don't think that's going to happen.
And just really quick, the last 3 Money in the Bank for the men have just been shitty. I really want whoever wins this to hold on to it and remind people how fun the Money in the Bank briefcase can be.
All that more reason why I think it's either King Corbin or it's AJ Styles. They both have some chicken shit heel type of mentality to them. They both could very well cash in on somebody and capitalize and win the title. Corbin could always cash in on Braun Strowman. Styles could cash in on Drew McIntyre. They both have credibility to them. Corbin's big. He's won a lot of different things. Styles is a multi-time world champion. There's a lot of similarities between those two, but ultimately I gotta think you give it to Styles, and he feuds with maybe Apollo Crews when he comes back, maybe Kevin Owens for a little bit, whatever it is, but Styles eventually cashes in and beats Drew McIntyre.
I think AJ Styles is probably the most likely out of the 6 available options. I'd probably put Styles at number 1, then Daniel Bryan 2, King Corbin 3. I'd put Black 4, Mysterio 5, Otis 6. I just don't think Otis has a chance. He's just there for some nice comic relief, unless they were to really add some seriousness to his character in the next year or so. I could see a scenario where Styles holds it for a while. He feuds, like you said, he feuds with some mid-carders for a while, eventually cashes in on Drew McIntyre, and then the match at WrestleMania is AJ Styles versus Edge for the WWE Championship.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Both of you thinking all the way to WrestleMania, it would be AJ Styles and Edge?
I think that would be the WrestleMania match, would be an AJ Styles Edge match. Because that was the thing that many people expected to be this year's WrestleMania match for Edge on his return, because of their interaction in the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see that being the match that's built up for next year. And AJ is now getting a reputation for carrying old guys that aren't as good in the ring as they used to be to great matches at WrestleMania. So that's kind of that could kind of suit the narrative.
I'm gonna go with Corbin because I still think there's only one guy that insufferable that can really play on the I climbed the corporate ladder, ha ha ha. I don't see anybody else in that match being able to pull that off. So I'm going to say Corbin gets it, and this time he actually cashes in for a world championship.
Maybe he transitions from King Corbin to Corporate Corbin, and we get some
No,
kind of
he's
hybrid of the GM
He's already
version of
done
him
that.
yeah.
and Corporate
He's gonna
Kane.
be king. He's gonna be king corporate constable Corbin. Like it's just he's just gonna be everything.
King Constable Corporate Corbin in the bank. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Sure does.
So yeah, so I'm going Styles and Baszler. You guys are both going Nia Jax. Rob's going Corbin, and Callum's going Styles, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, that's Money in the Bank card.
We'll see you on Sunday when it's Dana Brooke and Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, it might be the case.
I'd be totally cool with Dana Brooke winning the Money in the Bank ladder match. I'm just saying.
Oddly enough, I'd be okay with it too. And then she cashes in on SmackDown Women's Champion Tamina.
Or Bayley.
We'll
Listen, if he gets the title of Bayley, then
Yeah.
it's fine that Dana Brooke wins it.
We'll see how this plays out, but at the very least on SmackDown, we might get some adjustments. And if we do, that's when we're going to do the hot tags either on Friday night or Saturday afternoon, most likely Friday night. And when that happens, if there are any adjustments, we'll talk about that then and, give some updated predictions and stuff. But otherwise, we'll just kind of carry along here. And the pay-per-view is happening on Sunday night. So we'll have the live coverage on smarkoutmoment.com. I'll have my other posts all over the place on like Bleacher Report and such. And we'll do our post-show. Standard operating procedures and follow through with that the way we normally do. I did most of my plugs out of the way already, but these guys had some things that you guys should be aware of as well. So go ahead and toss them out there. Callum?
Follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out all the weekly articles on smarkoutmoment.com, including the power rankings, my one, but there's tons of other content on there, so be sure to check all that stuff out. I actually did a recent one for that I forgot to plug because I'm an idiot about Triple H's because Triple H recently passed 25 years in WWE, so I compiled a list of his 25 best matches, at least according to my opinion. So
I didn't know that. I'm gonna go look at that right now.
Yeah, so if you want to know what those matches are, then check those out on the website.
And for me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. Check out Fightful.com. Check out WrestleZone.com. We will be very busy throughout the weekend, of course, with everything going on with Money in the Bank. And Yummy in the Bank, which is a video game stream, will be happening at some point during the weekend. So check me out on that, on the Facebook WrestleZone, on the WrestleZone Facebook. And yeah, that's it for me.
And if you want more Fanboys content, like our upcoming Donnie Darko podcast, stay tuned to that. If you just want more content in general, the Patreon for both is a way to make sure that we keep doing more. And if not, then just stay tuned and hit that subscribe button on all that stuff. And when things pop up, you'll be aware. So that's it for the 2020 Money in the Bank predictions podcast. Thanks for listening to this, everybody. We'll see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.